Hi everybody, welcome to my presentation. It is titled, Is Play Universal? And it is looking at how play and play opportunities within two Liverpool districts can differ by class. The social-economic gap and the impacts that it has on play. The presentation looks at the comparisons between two districts within Liverpool, Formby and Sefton. One is considered affluent and the other is considered deprived. Despite being in the same city, children's opportunities and experiences can differ due to the class divide, which can influence children's culture. I have chosen to look at the districts and class as it's important to recognise the gap between classes and the play opportunities children from both deprived and affluent upbringings may have when it comes to their participation in play. The influence that will be looked at is social-economic status due to the gap that continues to widen. Although both of these districts are in Liverpool, childhoods may look very different depending on socio-economic status and what opportunities are available to them. The aspect of children's learning that will be focused on is play. According to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, all children have a right to play and participate. However, some children are unable to fully exercise their right to play due to their socio-economic status. Article 31 looks at play, artistic and cultural activities, highlighting that all children should be able to play and engage in activities. Article 12 is freedom of expression, which is recognised for participation, and it encourages children's views and for those views to be considered. It is important as adults should ensure that all children can access their rights. So this slide is the importance of play, and it looks at how play can support learning and development in many different ways, helping children learn essential skills that will help them later in life. Play can help children develop their cognitive, physical, emotional, social and language skills. Therefore, it is important to encourage children to engage in different types of play to help them develop those skills. Examples of how play can help with child development and learning can include helping children understand themselves, other people and the world around them. It can also increase engagement, give children confidence, improve their attention, and it can also help them make and maintain relationships that they have. This slide looks at culture, theory, and links to play. My understanding of culture is the norms and values and the behaviours encouraged or discouraged within society, which can be influenced by various factors including social economic status. A definition of culture can be taken from Boyd and Richardson, who describes culture as the teaching and imitation of values and knowledge passed on from one generation to another. Looking at cultural theory perspectives, Roth and Branner's ecological systems theory shows how different factors can impact children. The model displays a range of multiple factors from the environment surrounding the centre, which would represent the child. This framework is beneficial in showing how the closer the factor is to the centre, the more impact it will have, with influences including both environmental and biological. The factors closest to the child are the individual biological factors such as sex, age and health. These are the individual traits and characteristics showing how not all children are the same. The microsystem is the second layer of factors that can be impactful. These are the interactions between the individual and the social relationships that they have on their school, peers, family and church. Some factors children may interact with the most. The next layer is known as the mesosystem, and it shows the interactions between the individual microsystem relationships. The exosystem is the other environmental factors that may have an influence on children's individual experiences, such as mass media, social services, neighbours and politics. These things have an influence but may not have a greater impact on the child in comparison to their family, friends or schooling. The macrosystem recognises the influences such as culture, attitudes and values, these being the societal and larger cultural influences. Ragoff, who is another cultural psychology theorist, focused on participation within cultural communities and presents the idea that culture is always changing. This theory recognises that children are integrated participants instead of separated in child world from the community and from adults. This view looks at children as active participants in the community. The idea that children are not passive links to Ragoff's idea that child development is a process that involves the active roles of children. Ragoff explores children's opportunities to participate in cultural activities which can relate back to children's rights. Article 12 is known for participation, which can advocate for child's free play, forming a link between Ragoff's cultural theory and play. Children have the right to participate in activities and be part of groups which could include clubs, extracurricular activities, as highlighted in Article 31, which encourages children to engage in cultural and artistic activities. Much like Ragoff, Brenner's theory is a cultural psychology theory focusing on environmental influences on children's development. This can link back to play as factors such as family, peers, and school, these being the closest factors to the individual and may have an influence on play, as children are more likely to play at home, with their friends, or at school. This slide talks about the role that culture has in play. As you can see, there are two images on the left-hand side that are word clouds. I create these word clouds to just show different ways that childhoods can be impacted by their socioeconomic status. Children in deprived areas may experience inadequate housing, such as overcrowding and lack of garden space, which can make it difficult to play. These inequalities were highlighted during COVID-19. This outdoor difficulty may also be seen with parked cars on pavements, creating challenges for open play. Some parents may also need to work multiple jobs in order to make ends meet for children and their families. So some children may not have someone to help them guide or provide resources during play, especially if there's no adult there that can help direct play and guide to give ideas. Sure Start Centres were introduced in 2010 with the purpose of helping families and were located in areas that needed them the most. Sure Start Centres and parks may be needed by poorer children, especially if there is overcrowding or if there's limited garden space at home, which can create barriers during COVID-19 and could have left children with limited options to play. Recent research looked at park usage and COVID-19, and they found that parks provide important services within society, especially during times when recreation opportunities are limited. Wealthier children may have different opportunities than those in deprived areas, such as access to higher standard of housing, resources, extracurricular activities such as hobbies and school clubs, as well as the luxury of holidays. It is reported that wealthier children have advantages when it comes to art. Research shows that nearly half of high-earning parents enrolled their children into art classes before they reached 5, compared to only 1/5 of low-earning parents. 20% of wealthier parents report that their children have a busy schedule, compared to only 8% of less affluent parents, and are more likely to report boredom. This could be due to busy calendars. The findings suggest, depending on social and economic status, some types of play may be more encouraged than others. The busy schedules created by parents that encourage sports and art raises the question of whether there is freedom to play and if play is opposed. Although their experiences and limitations may be different from one another, there may be expectations, opportunities to play freely. So although there are those difficulties for children that are less affluent than others, the children who are affluent, although they may have the resources, time may be a question, especially if they do have those busy schedules, and whether their parents are encouraging of different activities that those children choose to do. Again, raising the question of, is different types of play more encouraged than others? It is incredibly important to take note that these experiences may not be representative to everybody that falls in the category of affluent childhoods or poorer childhoods. Especially, it's so important to know that some people may share similar experiences, but it is so important not to assume that this is the case for everybody. On the right hand side of the slide, you can see there is a chart. This graph shows that there has been some investment in regards to the Sure Start centres and earlier services. The graph does show how much local authorities in England have spent annually since 2010 on those services. However, evidently there has been a decline in funding since budget cuts have been made, despite many families relying on those services. So it isn't a case of families no longer need the services, so they've cut the services down. It's very much the services has been cut and families still need them. A social economic divide in Liverpool, comparing two Liverpool districts. Statistics from Sefton Council shows comparisons between Sefton and Formby districts, last updated in 2021. Graph 1 shows that there are larger levels of deprivation in Sefton during 2019 and 2020 compared to Formby, with 17% of children in Sefton living in low-income families. The second graph displays household annual incomes in 2020. Findings show that Formby has a higher annual income than Sefton, with over 60% of Formby residents earning over 40k, in comparison to Sefton, where 60% of people earn less than 40k. Graph 3 presents the findings of free school meal users within Formby and Sefton in 2020. The graph shows for every 1,000 0 to 17-year-old, there are 65.5 children accessing free school meals in Formby compared to over double in Sefton. These findings might reflect the role that culture has in play in relation to socioeconomic status. This is further shown in the news article pictured on the slide by the Liverpool Echo in 2020. This is on the right-hand side, just on the bottom. It depicts the reality of how some residents in Sefton live, suggesting that those in Formby would not be living in those conditions, potentially showing a divide in how families in those districts live and presenting some barriers for children when it comes to play. This article is basically depicting a picture that those in Sefton are living in pretty poor conditions. It does say underneath the heading that it's like nobody cares, but something would be done about it if it was in Formby, which shows that there is that divide and that those residents are even acknowledging that there is a divide. I wanted to include a fun fact about Liverpool. So Liverpool is part of the Child Friendly City programme. This is a UNICEF programme that launched in 1996, and the purpose of it is that it can support local governments in enabling children's rights and helping to prioritise them. And what's interesting is that Liverpool is one of the 6 cities in the UK to officially sign up, and it is the only one in the north to do so. The summary of the presentation. To summarise, there was a focus on the social economic gap, looking at 2 Liverpool districts to show the divide regarding children's play and opportunities. It was identified that play supports learning and development holistically, with different types of play helping different types of development, but it can be affected by barriers such as social economic status. It is important to recognise and remove barriers so children's opportunities are not limited or have their rights infringed, which acknowledge the importance of play and participation. The understanding of culture was explored, acknowledging culture can mean different things to different people. One definition that was looked at was Boyd and Richardson, who described culture as being learned from generations. Cultural psychology theories were explored, such as Ragoff and Bronfenbrenner, regarding environmental influences and participation, enabling children's rights in play. Research and experience show how the role of that culture has in play can vary depending on individual experiences with socioeconomic status influences, although this alone does not make up the culture, as other factors can have an influence also. It was further shown that childhood experiences may differ depending on socioeconomic status. However, this can vary depending on other factors, not just socioeconomic status alone. The importance of government-funded facilities, such as the Shore Star and local parks, was also highlighted as research showed dependence and other research raising questions of is play imposed on, with some encouraged more than others, and is that not free play? If that is not free play, then is it play? Also, I just want to take note that there are the references at the bottom here that you can look at if you want to do any more reading in regarding to the subject. And if you do have any more questions, I'll happily answer them. Thank you so much for taking your time out to watch the presentation, and I really do hope that you were able to learn something today. Thank you.